So, Mike, could you tell us a little bit about the history and the current status of Cold Springs Comprehensive Plan?
Sure. Cold Spring adopted its comprehensive plan in January 10, 2012, so just a couple of months ago. The plan had been developed over about a 5-year period starting in 2006. It was largely funded by the state of New York using the money for a local waterfront revitalization policy. The plan involved, I think we had 30 community events, outreach events. So it really reflects the community's views on a multitude of topics within the community, a multitude of issues. And the plan is really articulates the vision of the community for its future. Plan talks about things like maintaining the village character, protecting the environment, talks about infrastructure issues. So it's really the community's vision for its future. And I think it will become the basis for the laws in the community, including the land use law, which is known as zoning. So it's going to become the basis for that law, and is, I think, going to be a vital part of the community's future.
Can we talk? Yeah, can we just talk a little bit about what's meant, or what is the relationship between the comprehensive plan and the laws of the village? What does it mean when people say that a plan, a development plan, has to follow the comprehensive plan?
The comprehensive plan law in New York State was established in 1993. It's Law 7722. And essentially, all of the laws in a community must conform with the master plan in that community. And the land use law must be consistent with it. The term is often consistent, a consistency check. The zoning and the laws in the community must be consistent with what the community has set forth as its master plan. There's a lot of nuance and interpretation in that, but a court will find if the community tries to adopt laws that are inconsistent with its comprehensive plan, the court will strike down those laws and say that they're not valid. So the community has to follow its comprehensive plan.
Okay, and could you talk a little bit about the kinds of values and vision that the comprehensive plan has for any development that might take place in Cold Spring?
Interestingly, Mike mentioned the fact that the comprehensive plan is a statement of the community's vision and goals, which it indeed is. And we spent a great deal of time in these 30 community outreach meetings and in the survey in getting input from the community. And it is interesting now to go back to the very beginning when we drafted a statement of vision and goals. And if you look at the comprehensive plan, again and again, it is an expression of those basic vision and goals. And just to run through quickly, there were 7 of them. And the first is to preserve and enhance the small town, historic, neighborly, and diverse and safe character of the village. Second, take full advantage of our location on the Hudson River. Third, to protect the natural environment and conserve energy. Fourth, enhance the economic vitality of the village. And all of these themes keep running through. The fifth is to ensure that community and facilities and services meet the needs of the village. And the sixth is to control property taxes, and this was unusual. It's seldom written as a goal unto itself, but the control of property taxes is such an intense concern in this village that we felt it needed to be brought out in a big way. And the last one is that any new development needs to be integrated with the traditional village of Cold Spring. And those themes, they are stated in as themes, and then they are simply expressed in the specific objectives and recommendations throughout the comprehensive plan.
Okay, one of the things that the village board did in considering the emerging plans for the Butterfield site is ask the special board to look at those proposals with an eye toward how they might impact the comprehensive plan, or vice versa, how the comprehensive plan would impact the proposals. And so the special board made a number of recommendations, and among them had to do with traffic and parking. And I was wondering, Mike, if you could speak to them.
Sure. The comprehensive plan talks about the importance of traffic and the parking, and looking at that, actually that entire Chestnut Street corridor as a whole, and considering how the parking is accommodated and how the traffic is managed. The comprehensive plan recognized the really serious problems with how the traffic moves through that area, a combination of deliveries, very heavy volumes. You've got the 9D corridor. So a lot of very difficult issues to solve and address. And the Butterfield, as a developed property, clearly will add to the volume of traffic and the need for parking. I think there's something like 235 parking spaces in the proposal. Of course, it's still not a final proposal, but there's a lot of traffic, vehicular activity going on with the plan, and the comprehensive plan addresses that concern pretty directly.
And among the recommendations from the special board are also consideration of the tax implications to the village, and specifically how any residential or commercial development might impact the community. Can you speak about them?
Thanks. In fact, one of the ways to make sense out of the various possibilities for a property like Butterfield is indeed to look at the tax implications. And generally speaking, development that is tax positive tends to be commercial development. And by tax positive, we mean that the taxes that are generated by a property are greater than the costs of community services, from garbage pickup to water supply and so on. So tax positive is a very important concern. So what you need to do is look at the mix or the balance of uses, and then do what's called a fiscal impact analysis to see whether you really have got a development plan that is going to be tax positive. The residential is a particularly interesting issue. Different types of housing have different tax impacts. One of the biggest tax impacts is on school taxes. And while we all love children, and we particularly love the children who are here, there's a real question as to whether we want to build more housing that attracts more children and will cause the growth of the school and thus of school taxes. But so one of the answers to that, in many people's view, is to have senior housing. And that indeed is a possibility, but there are concerns about senior housing as well. The experience in some communities, and there are a number of lawsuits to this effect, the concern is that what may start as senior housing over time may default into general housing, and which you have to look at it at the time that changes are made to see what those implications are. But it's not clear cut. that senior housing is an unmitigated good.
Okay.
Don't know what else you're thinking about housing. I mean, there's a range of types of housing that can be looked at, from single family to two family to multifamily to apartment development to live work when a home is used also as a workplace, which keeps jobs in the village, which is one of the objectives here.
Okay. And Mike, also in your recommendations from the special board, there was discussion of the concept of walkability and also integration with the village. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. One of the key issues for the special board was that we noticed that this village is a walkable community. It's 407 acres. It's small. It's has many people walk to shop. They walk rather than drive within the community, and any development we felt should encourage that walkability. You could have an approach where you had a gated a set of housing that's basically a gated community that doesn't encourage walkability, and that was one of our concerns with the Butterfield property, is that it showed initially a cul-de-sac surrounded by buildings that had a kind of a feeling of almost a fortress feel, a Conestoga wagons being circled and keeping the community out. We felt that it was important that the development, the form of the development, the way it's situated in the village, that it encourage a flow of traffic, both vehicular and pedestrian, through it, and that it become integrated in the community, become something that people are comfortable walking through and interacting with in their day-to-day lives, and that it not be something that people think of it as a gated community that's somehow separate from the rest of the community.
Okay,
Related
sure.
To
And
that, Cold Spring is in many respects the envy of many newer communities which are built around the automobile, and Cold Spring began before the automobile existed. Consequently, we have smaller properties, we have parking behind the homes, we have homes are closer to the street than they are in a typical suburban community. People relate to each other, you have front porches. All of these are features of a traditional community, which has been traditionally a walkable community. And we are very fortunate to have that and are eager to see that preserved.
all right. Is there anything that either of you would like to add to this, to a better understanding of the issues with respect to either the plan as a whole or to the Butterfield proposals?
I think that something to remember is that the issues can be quite nuanced. If you take, for example, the senior housing, one of the concerns is that over time it could convert to housing for younger people. But it could simply do something that where the housing mix is changing the community, where people within the community move from their homes as they get older and they move to this housing, and then make room for younger families, so that the proportion of younger families could actually increase in the community. So there can be some changes that aren't necessarily going to be predicted in a fiscal impact analysis, that might not be captured. There is a category of risk here. There's a kind of risk and uncertainty that you have to go into with open eyes, and that may not necessarily be fully captured by even the comprehensive plan. But the way the community addresses the development, I think, probably should be done with open eyes and an open mind.
And in that connection, too, many of the objectives and specifics are intertwined with others, like traffic with the automobile, which we didn't have, has to be interrelated with walkability, has to be interrelated with how the streets are laid out, and often you have to look at different objectives at the same time and balance them out and see what the trade-offs are. So these are really not simple questions for the community to deal with. And the aim is to have the comprehensive plan as a backdrop that can guide what happens in the village for the next 20 years.
All right. Well, thank you both very much.